Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a few of the new strong jungle picks for this patch. So this is going to be kind of like a tier list video for the jungle, but not exactly. I'm still going to mention like which champions are in tier 1, tier 2 and stuff, but we're mainly going to focus on the champions that have gotten a lot stronger in this patch, because in 7.13, there's a lot of new jungle picks that are pretty strong and that you should be looking to pick up if you haven't already. So with that being said, guys, let's get started. So to start off this video here, we're just going to quickly take a look at a few of the jungle champions that are staying tier 1 from the previous patch, and I just want to quickly go over these ones because I want to go more into detail about the champions that are getting stronger and not so much about the champions that are kind of staying the same from the previous patch. So these champions that are staying tier 1 right now are Nunu, Warwick, Zac, and then I'm pretty sure I did not have Kha'Zix in tier 1 in 7.12, but Kha'Zix and Elise are both tier 1 in my opinion right now in 7.13. Nunu is just absolutely kind of busted in this patch. Like, he still is that supportive type jungler, so I don't really think you can call him busted because you still need to know what you're doing on the champion in order to carry with him. But he's got a 57% win rate now in solo queue, which is insanely high. Usually no champions in the game get up to that high of a win rate, so if you can play Nunu well right now, then he's a very, very strong pick. And then for Warwick and Zac, they're both still very good in this patch. Zac is probably going to stay permabanned in 7.13, so you probably won't get much time to play him. But for Warwick, this champion still has a very low play rate for how strong he actually is. I think Warwick is kind of on par with Zac right now. As for like the top tier junglers in this patch, he might be a little bit lower than Zac, but he's definitely a very, very strong jungle pick. He got stronger in this patch with the changes to Cinderhulk, so I'd be looking to pick up Warwick as well if you have yet to already. Now briefly for Kha'Zix in this patch right now, he actually got buffed. Now when you take a look at the patch notes, it might seem like a nerf to you, but the base damage went down on his Q, the ratio went down, but the isolation damage went up, and this is really where Kha'Zix is at his best when he's looking to go for 1v1s in the early game against the enemy jungler. And if you're playing him like that and you're playing him aggressive in the early game, then this is actually a buff to Kha'Zix. His ultimate also got buffed in this patch, so he's overall just better in my opinion for solo queue for 7.13. So if you want to play an assassin type jungler, I think Kha'Zix is one of the best ones for this patch. And then for Elise in this patch, she didn't get any direct changes. She still is a very good jungle pick for this patch right now, one of the best early game champions that you can play. So if you're a good Elise player, I'd still be looking to pick her up in this patch. So now if we move on to taking a look at the new jungle picks in this patch that in my opinion are moving up into tier 1 now, the first one is Sedge. So I think that Sedge in this patch is extremely strong. The main reason for it is because in 7.12, a lot of players were going Cinderhulk, and immediately after that, they would build Warmogs. And if you guys don't know, in this patch, Cinderhulk got a change to where it now gives you, instead of 15% bonus health, it got buffed up to 20%. And the reason why this is so good for this build on Sejuani is because you get the Warmogs, which gives you 800 health, and you're now getting like 20% bonus health out of that. So it's just extremely strong now on Sejuani. You're gonna have a ton of bonus HP for the mid game, and you're gonna be super hard to kill. You also take the Stoneborn Pact Mastery on Sedge, so you're gonna be getting 25% bonus health, which is just a lot of bonus HP. So I think in this patch right now, Sejuani is just a very, very strong tank option if you are looking for one of those. Another pick here that has been rising in popularity recently, especially in the pro scene and also a little bit in solo queue, is Jarvan Jungle. So Jarvan Jungle, he's gotten stronger over the past few patches for a few different reasons. Number one, item changes to Guardian Angel as well as to Gargoyle Stoneplate just help him out a lot, because with those two items, they synergize super well with Jarvan. He wants to dive in on the back line, and if he gets the Guardian Angel, he doesn't really have to care too much about carelessly diving on the back line, because as long as his team follows up, he's going to pop his GA and he should be able to win team fights pretty easily. And then with the Stone Plate, if you pop the Stone Plate and then you also use your W right after that, or when this stone plate is active, the shield you get from your W is insane because it now scales off of your bonus HP, and therefore when you pop that stone plate, you're getting a ton of bonus HP, which will give you a very large shield from your W. And then also right now a lot of players are going for this kind of cheesy gank path on Jarvan, which is having really good success. Jarvan's level 2 ganks are actually super strong, so what some players will do is they'll take red buff and immediately go mid lane. If you guys watched the LCS on the weekend, I'm pretty sure Moon did this when he played Jarvan. He went mid lane at level 2 and he got first blood. The way he did this is he immediately flashed on to the enemy champion so that they had to flash away right away, because if he applies that red buff on the enemy champion, they have to flash or they're not going to get away. After they flash, you use your EQ combo with Jarvan, and a lot of the time you're going to get first blood by doing this. It's kind of a cheesy tactic, but it's definitely going to work out a lot of the time, and it will get you a very good snowball going in the early game. And then with a lot of other champions and a lot of jungle champions getting nerfed over time, like Graves, Rengar, Lee Sin, all of these prominent jungle champions that were very strong early in the season, because they've gotten nerfed, it just opens it up for these other junglers that haven't really got any changes, or junglers that have gotten buffs over time like Jarvan, and they're just gonna get stronger if these other jungle champions are going to get nerfed. And then another jungle champion making his way up into tier 1 for this patch is Gragas. So Gragas is kind of similar to Sejuani. He's a very similar pick in the sense that they both have very good crowd control. They're both super tanky. Right now in this patch, Gragas is actually doing better with the Cinderhulk build as opposed to the Runic Echoes build. And he's also doing better with the Keystone of Stoneborn instead of Courage of the Colossus. Now this is kind of personal preference, I guess, when you're playing Gragas. A lot of players are still going Runic Echoes on him, and if you do want more damage in the early game and you kind of want to try to solo carry more as Gragas, you can still go Runic Echoes. But I think building the Cinderhulk on him and also taking the Stoneborn, and then if you do pick up a Warmogs, you're just going to be so tanky on the champion. You're going to get a ton of bonus HP, and I think that in this patch right now, the combination of that Cinderhulk and the Warmogs is just very underrated. I'm not too sure if people will start to pick this up more, because Warmogs has always been this kind of item to where it's not really been in the meta ever, just because it doesn't give you any extra stats like magic resist or armor. But I think that right now it's kind of sleeper OP for sure, and if you're just looking to get very tanky and be that front line for your team, then I'd recommend trying out this build for this patch. And then the final champion that's moving up into tier 1 for this patch is Rexi. So Rexi was already a pretty strong pick in 7.12. She got a buff in this patch to her ultimate, and a lot of players are saying that this is an over buff for Rexi. She was already in a good state in 7.12, and in 7.13 now, a lot of players and a lot of pro players are just saying she's probably going to be too strong and she might end up getting more nerfs in the future here. But Rexi in this patch, she still is a little bit of a harder jungler to play, because you do have to have an impact in the early game with her to really be successful. If you don't get your ganks off in the early game as Rexi and you kind of just farm it out and don't do too much, then you might as well just play a different jungler like Warwick or like Nunu or just one of these other tank junglers, because you are going to be more useful come mid to late game than when you're on a champion like Rexi. So I would play her in this patch for sure if you're experienced on her, but if you haven't played her a lot, then I'd probably practice her a little bit, get used to her, and then head into ranked. So for this tier list and for this patch, I'm going to be doing a tier 1.5. The main reason for it is because I'm not completely sure whether or not these champions are actually tier 1 or if they are tier 2. It's a little bit too early to tell right now in this patch, but think of it like this. The champions in tier 1 are like S tier, the champions in tier 1.5 would be like A+, and then the tier 2 would be A, tier 3 would be B. So these champions are very strong picks in this patch right now, but I'm just not completely sure where they do stand so far in this patch. So these champions are going to include Maokai, Shaco, and Kindred. Now, all three of these jungle champions did get changes in this patch, and that's kind of why I'm placing them here in tier 1.5, because they did get buffs, so I'm not completely sure yet if they are super strong in this patch, but they are definitely a lot better. The Kindred buffs help her out a lot. They gave her more damage on her ability abilities. The Shaco buff is actually really nice if you do want to build him more AD based. A lot of players in the previous patches, they'd be building him with a little bit of AP, or they'd go full AP, but the best build right now on Shaco in this patch is just full AD, because they did change the ratio on his E to a really good bonus AD ratio, and therefore if you do pick up items like Infinity Edge and just a lot of these other AD items, then your E is actually going to do quite a bit of damage now in 7.13. And then as for Maokai in the jungle, I think he is one of the most sleeper OP picks right now for this patch. He's been getting a lot of buffs over these past few patches. They've kind of been small buffs, but they're definitely adding up. He got some buffs to his Q, I think, a few patches ago. He also got some buffs to his passive. In this patch, he's getting buffs to his base health and also to his ultimate. So his ultimate has more range now by 500, which is actually quite a bit of bonus range. It's also on a shorter cooldown now at later ranks, and he also just indirectly got buffed with the changes to Cinderhulk. I think he's also really good with the Righteous Glory right now. That item getting changed is just a lot better now on Maokai, and then to top it off, the changes to Abyssal Mask make Maokai even better because the item does now have mana, and Maokai's a champion that always likes to build a little bit of mana, so that item is just even better. I think this champion is overall just a very viable and strong pick for this patch. So if you are looking for another good tank champion to add to your champion pool for this patch, Maokai is a very good option. And then if we take a look at the tier 2 champions in this patch right now, there's quite a few of them, so I will put them up on screen here. The ones I want to take a look at are, I want to take a look at Trundle. So I think Trundle in this patch right now with the Cinderhulk as well as the Stoneborn Pact is actually really strong. A lot of junglers with this kind of setup in this patch are really good, but with Trundle, because you do steal the enemy's resist whenever you do use your ultimate, if you just stack HP on this champion and you're getting the bonus HP from Cinderhulk as well as the Stoneborn, you're going to be extremely tanky. I think Trundle is actually very underrated in this patch right now. If the enemy team does have a tank champion or a champion that is going to be stacking that armor, then I'd be looking to pick up Trundle. Like in the jungle, you can go for that level 2 cheese gank because your pillar in the early game is actually very underrated for ganks. I think it's actually one of the best gank tools. You're almost guaranteed to burn flash wherever you do gank, and if you do go for that level 2 cheese gank mid, then you're just going to allow your mid laner to get ahead in the laning phase and just have a very easy time. This may seem like a bit of a troll pick to you guys, but I think this is actually pretty legit, and I think that he is a very good option for this patch. And then because I did have a lot of champions in the tier 1 as well as the tier 1.5, and then I also had a tier 2, I'm not going to do a tier 3 for this patch. If a champion was not mentioned already in this video, then it probably just means they're not really worth picking over a pick that's in the tier 1 or in the tier 1.5 or in the tier 2, and there's just other better options if you don't see that champion listed. So that being said though guys, if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.